Welcome back to another episode in my Suburban Backyard Beekeeping in South Africa Q&A. Today I'll be answering some more of your questions and giving you an update on the new hives, as well as letting you know what the next video will be all about. So stay tuned and join me. Hi, my name is Ahmad and I am a Suburban Backyard Beekeeper out here in Somerset West, and I'm here to take you along with me on my beekeeping journey and answer some of your questions that you may have. Whether you're a beekeeper or not, or you're just interested in bees, I will try and answer. So this week has been a bit cold. We've had a bit of rain. We had lows in the single digits and highs in the mid-teens. Today and tomorrow we're looking at the low 20s, and over the next week we're going back down again to the low teens, mid-teens and low single digits overnight lows. The bees, however, are still going out. The only time that I have not seen them go out to collect pollen and nectar and any other resources is when it was raining or when it was extremely windy. So the bees are carrying along quite fine. I will be doing another video later on regarding one of the new hives and swapping out a damaged brood box. And the new hives, as you can see, they're doing fairly well and they've settled in. It's taken them a day or two to settle in, but they're now quite settled in. I might have a couple of special guests switching into the video later on to answer some of your questions. But for now, let's start with why I started this YouTube channel, because that is a conversation I have fairly regularly with colleagues and friends and family. And there's thousands of YouTube videos out there about beekeeping. The problem I faced when I went into this, and you can see on the little insert how much YouTube hours, how many hours I've spent on YouTube, and it's quite scary sometimes if you think about spending 4 hours a day watching YouTube videos. The problem I faced is that most of the YouTube videos that I found specifically deals with either the America, USA, Canada, Europe, mainly the UK, and then Australia. And over in America, they've got their own set of issues when dealing with bees. They, for instance, have winters where the bees can't leave for 3 months as they snowed in, sometimes even up to 5 months up in Canada. So there's no beekeeping videos, or there's very few beekeeping videos specifically addressed at South African beekeepers. So the aim of this video was to just get some more information out there for other people that are interested in starting beekeeping in their backyards out in the suburbs. Okay, so the first question I got besides that one was, what can I plant in my garden? And we need to understand what it is that bees go out and collect. So the most common thing that they collect is nectar, and they will collect the nectar and bring it back into the hive, and they will dehydrate it and then cap it, and that will be the carbohydrates, and that is the energy source. The second thing that they collect is pollen, and pollen is mixed with honey and other enzymes, and that is mainly used to raise brood. So if there's pollen coming in, it means that there's brood there that they're trying to raise. So that pollen is the protein source for the bees. The other thing we need to remember is that bees also collect tree sap, and they use tree sap and form what is called propolis. And propolis is an antibacterial compound that they use basically to sterilize the hive, and they will use it to plug up holes. They will coat the inside of the hive, and they will use it for that purpose. So propolis is very sticky. There's very beneficial properties to propolis, and some beekeepers collect propolis and create a propolis tincture. So that is one of the other products you could think of making. The other thing that they do collect is water. So there's bees that go out specifically to collect water for the hive. Those are the main things that bees collect. So when it comes to thinking of what to plant in your garden, you also need to bear in mind that bees are trichromatic, meaning that they see in three colors. And the three colors that bees see in is blue, green, and ultraviolet. They cannot see red. They cannot see the color red. So if you do need to work your hives at night, or if you have lights outside, if you have red lights, the bees can't see it, so they would see nothing at all. So red is a color that they can't see. And if you look at the picture on the side up here, you'll see that this is how humans see versus how bees see flowers. So that's the next thing. What you also need to remember is that flowering trees is a bigger resource than actually just normal plants in your garden. So I would look at flowering trees. If you just look at the space needed for one tree might take up 8 to 10 square meters of area, but the amount of flowers that one tree will produce is immense. So if you have the space, plant some trees. It does take a while however, but after 4 to 5 years that tree will provide so much more resources for your bees. The other, some common plants that you could plant, and what I plant is cosmos, and I planted some cosmos last year. I just bought a small packet from the garden center, and I planted some of those, and the bees loved it. And what happens is every single flower ends up seeding, and I ended up harvesting hundreds of seeds from all of the cosmos flowers when the flowers were done. And I've since now planted them on my perimeter. So cosmos is a very good flower that you could plant in your garden. But yeah, try and go with flowering trees and flowering shrubs. That will provide a lot of resources for your bees. Next question, and this ties into me moving hives recently, is what is the best time to move a hive? So the best time, bees don't really fly during the day. They can't see obviously, so they don't fly during the at night. Sorry, bees don't fly during the night as they can't really see in the dark. So the best time to move hives would be at night, and moving them 1 to 2 meters at a time. The reason being is that bees will remember the location of their hive, so try and move them 1 to 2 meters at a time. Otherwise you might have bees returning back to the old location. If you're moving them from far away, then that's not really an issue. So if you're moving them over 3 kilometers, when they leave the hive for the first time, they will reorientize and they will not return back to that location because that location is just so far. But if you're moving them within the same apiary, try and move them 1 meter to 2 meters at a time, so that you don't have those returning bees moving back to the old location. If you move them from one side of the yard to the other side of the yard, there's a potential that the returning bees will go back to the original location. So try and move them at night, and in the same apiary, try and move them 1 to 2 meters at a time. The next question I had is, do I need to feed my bees? So my first colony I bought in March 2021, and that was basically coming to the end of our summer, and it was a small colony, 4 frames of bees with some drawn out comb, and I did not feed them at all. And speaking to other more experienced beekeepers, for most of the country we don't really need to feed bees in South Africa. When I mean by feeding bees, and the normal thing that people feed would be sugar water syrup, and that's a 1-to-1 ratio by weight, which means 1 kilogram of sugar to 1 kilogram of water, and that is just to give the bees some resources if there's nothing out there in the environment. So if I were to feed bees, I would only really feed bees if it's a late swarming season where they have no resources and there's nothing out in the environment and there's going to be a lot of rain. Again, we don't get snow and we don't get long spells where the bees can't go out and forage, and then I'll feed bees. But if it's an established colony, we don't really need to feed bees in South Africa for the most part. there are areas in South Africa that obviously experience the snow for a couple of weeks and minus degrees. Areas like Sunderland and those types of areas. So again, I am not in that area. I'm in Somerset West, Cape Town. So maybe find beekeepers in your area and find out from them if they need to keep. But in Cape Town, I have found that my bees went through winter quite fine, and only when it was raining and windy very much that they were not able to go out. But they had enough resources to cover those days where they could not go out. The next question that I had was to flow or not to flow, and basically some of you might know that there's an invention out in Australia called the flow hive, and while I do not have the original, I have a Chinese version of the flow hive. It's called the auto flow hive, and that I've got now. I've only put that onto one of my new colonies this week, and they seem to be working the combs. As you can see, they are on the plastic frames, and what they will be doing right now is sealing up the grooves and making the comb within that plastic frames, and then they will start filling it up with nectar. So I've got the Chinese flow hive, and one thing you need to bear in mind that the flow hive or any of these copies that's out there doesn't change the management of the bees. It only allows you to extract the honey easier. That's the only thing it does. You still need to go in there and manage your colony, check that they're not going to swarm, check the health of the colony. All of those bee management and animal husbandry that goes along with beekeeping still needs to take place. The only thing that's different is extracting the honey. That's now different. So to me, I've got one. The cost of buying a lot is just too much. I think the Chinese copy goes for about 5,000 rand, and the original, if you import from Australia, they with the import charges and the freight charges, comes to about 18,000 rand. For one hive, 18,000 rand is a lot of money, and that is why I opted for getting the Chinese auto flow hive. I haven't had any extraction from it yet, so this will be my first year, and as I go along, I will be looking at making more videos on that process, how to manage them and so forth. Actually, the video I'm going to do after this, where the brood box is damaged, the flow frame is, the flow hive super is on that colony. So I will be doing a video on that, and you'll get some more info on the auto flow hive. The next question I had is, do we have a varroa problem in South Africa? And again, speaking to other beekeepers, researching, firstly let's try and understand what the varroa is. The varroa destructor mite, what it's called, is a mite that sticks on the abdomen of the bee, and they basically carry disease with them, and they can destroy colonies. From the beekeepers that I've spoken to and the research that I've read is that our Cape honeybee and even the African honeybee tends to manage the varroa problem a lot better than what the European honeybee does. So I have not treated my hives yet. I've not looked into treating them yet. I will assess the situation if I see there's any decline within the population, but for the most part, from what I've spoken to with other more experienced beekeepers, is that varroa is here. It came over in, I think, 1991, or it was discovered in South Africa in 1991, and it's not really an issue for our bees. They are very hygienic, and they will remove brood and larvae from the cells where they see varroa, and they will remove it from the hive. However, there has been cases where varroa has destroyed the colony completely, or the effect of the varroa mite has just destroyed the colony completely. But right now, I'm just assessing the situation and hoping that the research and the experience from other beekeepers holds true, and our bees are actually very tolerant to the varroa and managing it on their own without me having to come in with pesticides or oxalic acid. So oxalic acid, basically it's a vaporization method where it makes this vapor that you shoot up into the hive, and it releases, it kills the varroa. There is some negative impact to the bees, but that's not as much as the actual varroa problem itself. So for now, I'll be managing it. I haven't done any sort of mite count or anything like that, but I will be looking at that as time goes on. The next question I had is, what is the capensis problem? So as you know, the honeybee that we find here in Cape Town or in the southwestern Cape is the Cape honeybee. In 1977, some researchers decided to take some Cape honeybee colonies from the Cape Peninsula and move it up north. And what they found is that the Cape honeybee basically overran the scutellata or the African honeybee colonies. Bees primarily reproduce with the queen laying fertilized eggs, and all the other worker bees, even though they're female, they can also lay eggs, but they can only lay unfertilized eggs. So what happens is they can lay drone or male, they can raise drones or males. But the queen is the primary method of reproduction, and she's the only one that's mated, and she will lay eggs that will become other workers. The Cape honeybee is unique in a sense that workers have the ability to practically clone themselves. So they will lay an egg that is a copy of the egg that they were born from. So it becomes a female egg, and that female egg can then be used to raise another worker or another queen. So what happened up in the northern provinces when they moved these honeybees upwards is that the workers of the Cape honeybee moved into colonies of African honeybees where they ended up laying other eggs within that colony, and slowly those colonies declined in number, to the point that the government declared that if anyone outside of the Cape honeybee area finds a capensis within their colonies, it needs to be destroyed. It's become a serious issue with thousands of hives being lost further north because the Cape honeybee, outside of its natural environment, is considered a social parasite. But fortunately, I mean, we are in the Western Cape, which is the native region for the Cape honeybee. We don't have that problem. We only have the Cape honeybee, so there is no risk to declining colony numbers of other types of bees. So that's the questions for this week. What I will be doing after this video is I've got one hive, and as you can see in the little insert up here is that I've got one hive where the brood box is damaged. It's just warped, and I need to replace that, so I will be doing a video on that later on, and hopefully upload it today still, just so that I can give more practical videos to you guys. My two guests unfortunately have not arrived, but maybe I'll include them in my next video, but we'll see how it goes. But for now, thank you everyone. I've reached 100 subscribers, so 30 in the last week. That's absolutely amazing. So thanks everyone for subscribing. Please don't forget to like this video and hit the subscribe button. Click on the notification bell to be notified every time I submit a new video. So thank you very much for tuning in.